It's kind of like when you want to slide a full glass across a bar top, you push it from below its center. You don't push it at the top.
Yeah.
Same concept applies to people. Who'd thunk?
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to another zany episode of Nerdy West Coast Swing, the podcast with pixels where the anchors are out of this world and the points don't matter. We are here to help train your eyes so you can learn faster and dance better. I'm Cassie Winter.
I'm Alicia Marshall. If you're wondering who are we to be analyzing these pros, Cassie and I both have extensive training and experience in both partnered and solo dancing. Cassie has about 24 years and I have about 26. So today we're doing a viewer requested video. We're taking a look at a really well-known video of Robert Royston and Tren Veal from Mad Jam
2014.
Okay, yeah, 2014. I think we're focusing more so on Robert than Tren, but
yeah. And the general idea is, what do you do when you draw someone you've literally never danced with before? And that's what's unique about this video, is it's one of the most iconic West Coast Swing Jack and Jill spotlights of all time, and it was a true Jack and Jill. They had never danced with each other before, and I did confirm that from Roro himself. The rumors are true, people. Yeah, we're just going to be talking about the mindset to have when dancing with someone you've never danced with in a competition environment, and also some very specific tools and techniques you can use to make it as awesome as possible. All right, link is in the chat. Go ahead and give it a watch, and when you're done, we'll get to analyzing. So good.
It was really fun to watch that one again.
Yeah. The lyric, "Let your backbone slip." I felt that. If anybody's wondering why I'm in a more like, my back is super mad after So Swing. Good times. So if you hear me whimper, that's why. All right. To the screen share. All right. So the first thing I want to note is actually before the song even starts, they start with a hug, even though they've never danced together. And I will say that's like a personal choice. If you're not comfortable hugging someone you don't know, I'd say that's okay. But it is nice to see if that is within your boundaries. And they also like have a conversation. They get to know each other. They're like meeting each other as people instead of kind of like being robots who don't actually start interacting with each other until the song starts.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. Uh-huh. Yeah, it's about showing up for each other and not getting stuck in their own heads, especially since in this competition they can pick fast, or I assume slow is the other option, but they end up picking fast, which I don't know, just random tangent. If you had a brand new Jack and Jill spotlight, what would be your preference, fast or slow?
I feel like it would depend on the situation.
Right.
Really. Like,
for me, if I were leading, I would want fast. If I were following, I would want slow.
That's fair. Yeah. I feel like my general go-to is slow. I feel like a lot of follows general go-to is slow.
Yeah. So I will say that like fast is an interesting choice. For anybody who knows where in the lineup this dance happened, like, because also what songs came before, if you're not the first couple out, will help you inform your choice too.
Yeah.
All right. So he said fast, and he turns around and he immediately starts connecting with Tren before the music even starts. And he also rotates them so the open side of the connection is facing the audience. And the music starts mid-pivot. So after he places his weight on his right foot, she places her weight on her left. The music kicks in right about there, because you can see he's already got an idea. This is extra funny in slow motion. We're just gonna do this again. Roro's full on like, it's like when you're a dancer who plays basketball, your defense creeps people out because your head doesn't go up and down.
Yeah. You got that really athletic stance.
Yeah, athletic stance, but a hoverboard. Anyways, back to my notes. one of the things that he learns connecting with her so quickly is how quickly and well she connects. Because you can see he doesn't even have like the best connection on her back, but she is there and connecting and on time with those pivots. So he learned a lot in just like 2 weight transfers.
Yeah.
And then when the song starts, and we know this because I believe he talked about it when he guest hosted with us. And we've noticed this in other videos of his that we've analyzed. He tends to start dances in open. And this has several benefits. The primary one being that it forces your partner to make eye contact with you and pay attention visually. And it's another tool that is incredible to help both you and your partner get out of your heads and into the dance and into the partnership.
I do want to add kind of a separate note. One of the reasons that this dance is so successful for them as two, champion dancers that have not danced together, it's so successful because they know the song super well. And I mean, a lot of times you will get a song that you know pretty well, not always. But that is one of the reasons that this particular dance is so successful. So
yep,
just want to mention that.
Yep, 100% agree. And so what Robert is learning through this section, he's not only encouraging her to make eye contact and connect visually, but he's learning if she's hearing this song the same way he is, essentially, the same stuff to accent, and also her ability to mirror. Because as soon as he starts backing up, because it has that da-da-da-da-da-da right at the beginning of the song, she picks up on it really quickly, not simply because he's being really clear about what he's doing, but because she knows the song so well, like Alicia was talking about.
Yeah.
And then claps are a great example of a pre-lead, because you literally have to separate your hands before you clap.
Yeah.
And I think Tren is the one. Yeah. Tren is the one that's initiating the clap because she actually lifts her hands first.
Yeah.
So Roro is actually following that clap, and the clap becomes a repeated theme throughout the dance.
I will add to that. It looks like the styling that they go for as they're moving in towards each other again looks like he was kind of going off of what she started doing, more so than her paying attention to him and going off what he's doing.
Yeah, it's a really great example of like collaborative mirroring. And I like, especially at the end, because he's the one that adds like the snaps up and down, and she adds a little bit of that with her right hand once they're closer to each other.
This is kind of one of those things where, like, because you know the music so well, you can kind of just know ahead of time that unless your partner does something like way out of left field, you're going to start moving at this certain moment, and you kind of know the vibe of it. So you can just kind of start moving and see where that goes and just adjust as you move further into the song.
Yeah. And 2 fairly straightforward rhythm structures that are good for this kind of moment in a music is either just a N1, N2, N1, N2. I think that's what Tren is doing, whereas Roro's doing more of a kickball change rhythm, like swivels.
Yeah.
He's doing a tap ball change, whereas she's doing full weight transfers. But because they're both pulsing the music together, it looks like their rhythms are perfectly matched, even though they're dancing ever so slightly differently.
Yep.
All right. So they take a whole 8 counts to move back towards each other. So they like get there after 4 counts, but then they're still here for a little while. And I really like that. And this is a theme we see throughout the entire dance, is that they take their time to transition between moments. It isn't like, hey, I'm here, bye. Leading into the discomfort of staying in a moment is one of the best things you can train yourself to do beyond your actual movement technique. It's very much a mindset thing.
Yeah.
All right. So we then have this moment in the dance, which I love so much because we're starting to see some individual play, but that allowing of it from both ends. So Roro sets up this moment and then lets Tren take it and creates that kind of picture frame for her. Roro is also continuing to learn how she is interpreting the music. So her really great emphasized slow body roll, that actually comes back later in the dance, and Roro initiates something like that.
Yeah. And also, I think, he's kind of taking the safe route in terms of I don't think is exactly sure what she's going for. So he just gives her space to do what she's going to do.
Yep.
Because you can kind of see he's like, oh, okay, this is a little different than what I was initially leading. So gonna wait here. And for Tren, she doesn't take too terribly long. One thing that kind of irritates me watching follows is when they take a really long time and don't give any signal, like, okay, I'm done now. But she does a really good job of that.
Yeah, she's so clear that the end it's over that she leaves herself in a rock and go right here.
Yep.
So that way Roro knows that she's ready to be let out, and he's able to follow through and then create that prep for her.
Yep, he's able to catch on.
It's a partner dance. What?
Sorry. Yeah, right. One thing with Tren, like nowadays, if you watch her, she does a lot more styling and individual things. And I think she used to do more so at this point in time too, but she's really taking the time to pay attention to what he's leading her into most of the time. And I think when she realizes, okay, he's giving me a minute here, I'm going to take my time, do what I want. So she's not ignoring what he's doing in order to do what she wants to do.
Right. One of the reasons why this is such an iconic dance is, yes, they're both champions and their technique is fantastic, but their partnering is masterful. Yeah. Both of them. And throughout this whole dance, you can see them learning about each other and each other's relationship to the song, which continues to inform the partnership and improve the dance as they go.
Yep.
This section right here is a musical callback. So musically, it feels very similar to the beginning of the song.
Yeah.
And one of the things Roro does excellently with his phrasing is it's like the concept in writing, where in a story, if you're going to have a gag, you want 3 beats to it. So you see the gag like 3 times, and on the 3rd time, it's the funniest ever. But if you go beyond that, it's bad news. So it's calling back to what happened before, but making it slightly different, and also escalating it either in size, speed, or complexity, or a combination of the two. So before they were backing up away from each other, and this time they're connected and they move towards the audience really quickly. I love that he commits to this backbone slip thing 4 times. I think it's 4. That's what I wrote down. Am I right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So Roro did 4. I think Tren ended up doing 3 because he was giving her enough time to catch on. She totally did a hitch at the beginning, but then she started styling it differently to match him.
Yeah. And that's something, this particular moment from her is such a good example of good partnering. So you can see that, like, she catches on to what he's doing and she's like, oh, okay, I'll do it with you. And then she kind of looks at him to check if they're going to keep going or not. But she also puts herself in a position where she could kind of go either way. So she kind of comes up out of it a little bit for like a hot second. And then she's like, oh no, we're going to stay back here. And then just kind of chills because she realizes they're going to keep doing it and he'll lead her out of it.
So let me go from the beginning. So then right there. She hops further forward, but then realizes she needs to stay back.
Yeah.
And then I also want to just highlight how Roro is using his free arm to emphasize rhythm and direction while they're strafing towards the audience. And it can just be that really helpful added visual element to communicate what you're trying to do. So we've got a ramp up to a break. Roro chooses a relatively simple ramp up, alternating turns that continue until the music hits. Because of the strong hits they've established together so far already, he can trust that musically she's going to want to stop and hold at the end just as much as he wants to, even though he's also leading the stop through the connection, of course. But it's also because of the way he's been guiding the partnership and the fact that they both know the song so well that it ends up being seamless. Because I would say the dance has been great so far, but this is like the first wow moment, that hit right there.
Yeah. And this is one of those things that we talk about where like you're creating the emphasis by stopping the movement and not doing something else or starting a big movement. It's just as effective. And especially with how this dance is going so far, it is very effective for them to just be on the same page exactly same time.
Yeah. And this is also the kind of song where this kind of break, the sound does cut out after the hit. So musically, it makes sense to stop moving for this kind of break. And then I love, this is another sign of just how excellent their technique is, that they create an anchor before they get going again.
Yeah.
Count one of a pattern in West Coast swing doesn't work correctly without the anchor beforehand.
Exactly.
An anchor you can do out of an empty pocket or out of what is a top hat? Rabbit out of a top hat. That's the metaphor I'm going for, but it's not coming out eloquently. You can pull an anchor out of anywhere, but you can't pull a one out of anywhere because a one depends on the anchor beforehand. Yeah. So the fact that they use kind of like the last half of a double compression to create an anchor before they go again is awesome.
Yeah. I also want to point out with that anchor, it's not like her like sitting back with the hips. It looks like it because of the way that she kind of shapes, but it's really the whole body that's moving backwards. It's not just the hips. That's something that I see fairly frequently with follows, is that when they're wanting to do an anchor that's kind of like a double compression of some sort, they're just pressing the hips back without really moving the rest of the body. It's the whole body that's moving.
Yeah, you can really see that her upper body and her standing leg are straight, and it's only her free leg that's out in front of her. A lot of follows will get into this shape. Both feet way out ahead, head way out ahead, hips back here, and bad news.
Yeah. Which, like, that shape isn't entirely incorrect, but it really depends on how you get into it. And that's the big thing, is I think that a lot of follows tend to interpret the entire body moving backwards with the hips pressing back as just the hips pressing back.
Right.
Because it does look fairly similar at glance.
Right. All right. So now we've got a similar ramp up to a similar hit. And because Roro has just proven his theory that they're going to hit this kind of moment the same way with a sudden stop and hold, he knows he can let go for this next one. And then Tren just kills it by deciding to drop to the floor.
Yeah,
It's just
I love that
fantastic.
choice.
So I'll hold forward from this point. It's so great. And then just a minor technique thing. They're hitting these strongly enough that there's some reverberation afterwards. Like you can really see it like in her hair, for example, and her pants, because her pants have a little bit more movement than his does. But like this isn't a slow into the stop. This is like a hit it hard enough and your body will reverberate a little bit. And same with this next one. All right, but wait, there's more musicality. All right, so this is now where they both know the song perfectly is really coming into play, because the lyric is shuffle to the left. Oh, it helps if I'm in the correct program. So they reconnect, and he gets like super obvious about it. So he's pointing with his finger. He's doing a pre-lead with his body shaping. So that way it's clear that he's going to do one of those collect underneath him and take another step to the side. So visually, she already gets the idea.
Yep.
Because while that is fully leadable in closed position, there's only so much you can do with an open hand hold right next to each other to actually lead that kind of footwork. Yeah. So he's doing a lot of it visually and emphasizing with his free arm. And then coming back, it's that call back to that really slow body roll that she did earlier. And the lyric is
walk it to the right.
Yeah, somewhere. I lost the note. I'm just going to trust you. That's so good. Great. I want to highlight. Oh, no, that's fascinating backwards. Okay, so after the shuffle to the right, what Roro does to help pre-lead the walk to the shuffle to the left, what he does to pre-lead the walk to the right is he does another clap, which fits because of the claps at the very beginning. But even if this were the only clap in the whole dance, it would help her pay attention, because like he's let go of her, something is changing. And he uses his thumb to pre-lead again. She claps, and then he's already pre-leading the rolls. But because of just the way that song, that section of the song works, like you're going to be doing something more upbeat to shuffle to the left and something slower walk to the right.
Yeah. I also want to mention that, like, just because of how the song is set up itself, like there is kind of like a hot second in between when they're going into these things, right? So it gives her a chance to catch on easier in terms of like she doesn't have to feel like she needs to fill the space necessarily. Like there can be kind of like a quick breath and then go into something else. And that really gives her the chance to check in with him.
Yeah, there's like patience to find the partnering. And I want that so bad, socially and competitively, because it just feels like what's been happening is the overall quality of dancers at the higher levels. Like if you look at the All-Stars today versus the All-Stars 10 years ago, the level of quality of movement is so much better.
Yeah.
But with that higher bar has also come a higher bar for being better than the last time. More showmanship, more stuff, flash and trash, for lack of a better word. I feel like the thing that's been struggling the most for that is partnering.
Yeah.
And it just makes me sad.
And I mean, that's not a new thing, you know, it's been that way trending that way for a while.
Yeah.
You know,
It takes a long time for these
it's not like
trends
we're
to do
calling
that.
out the all-stars or anything like that.
No. Because like we've talked about before on this show, that's not their fault either. Like a lot of it comes back to who's training and who's judging. That's what dictates where this dance goes. And also the music that's getting played. But I would argue that it's the judging and the teaching that is the primary driver of where this dance has gone and where it's going now. All right, so we've got another ramp up coming. And Roro ends up choosing a pattern that he can extend to give that ramp up feeling. And for leaders who are struggling to phrase, best thing you can do is add to your pattern vocabulary patterns that you can extend longer. So Roro ends up doing this ride. Which is a very signature Roro move. And that kind of pattern, you can extend the ride almost indefinitely if both partners are partnering to make that happen. Sounds nauseating to extend indefinitely, but one can if one so chose.
Yeah.
So unlike the previous ramp up, which was those continuing turns, so Tren kept turning over and over and over again, like every second or third one, Roro gave himself a turn. This is more complex, so he's escalating the dance, but based on where he came from. So like we've talked a lot about on the show, if you start out with like fireworks in the beginning of your dance, you somehow have to be bigger than fireworks as you go. Mm-hmm. That doesn't work well, especially when it's a true Jack and Jill, because part of being a true Jack and Jill is discovering what your partner's A game is and kind of saving that for the climax of the song, as it were. All right. And then it leads up to that bam, bam.
Mm-hmm. And this again is like a combination of knowing the song and he's setting her up really well to come towards him.
Yeah, his pre-lead is excellent. So he's posting just a little bit early, so she can't quite get over her feet. You can see how her left shoulder is kind of overextending a little bit because it's a shorter rope than she was expecting. And then he brings the, I want to emphasize this so much. This hand is going straight down, people. It is not swinging towards him. That would be a wrestling move. It is going straight down. Okay. I think I have emphasized that enough. And he's getting it started before the first hit. So there's a moment for them to already start coming towards each other. Mm-hmm. And then it's a bum bum. The other thing he does is he puts an emphasis on the up before his first hit down.
Yep.
So you can really see him pre-leading his own. What are these? Are these airtime chugs?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. You get some air? I don't know. And I love how because she doesn't know how quickly or how much distance he's going to cover in his. So she ends up completing her last one with her hips more forward than her upper body. And that's just like an adjusting technique because they could have headbutt each other if they weren't paying attention to the spacing, and they both paid attention and it ended up making the crowd go wild. It's fantastic. Yeah. And I would argue that this is the moment. We're only halfway through the song. By this moment, they'd already won first place. Probably, in my opinion. Just wanted to throw that out there. His mouth is great right here.
Yeah.
And again, that's like a really simple pattern. He's just leading a ronde. That's all he's doing to emphasize the lyrics of the song. Mm-hmm. Keeping it really simple for their partnership. And also because it's like, again, if they do too much too soon, they're still only halfway through the dance. They need somewhere to go.
Yeah.
So this is a callback to the walk to the right timing and styling, but instead they're in front of each other. So she has now gotten 3 instances of getting to do an emphasized body roll.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he's doing it with her again, this second. So he didn't do it on the first time. He just let her have it. And then the second time he did it with her. And this third time he's doing it with her again.
Yeah.
Well, very sneaky. And so now at this point, they have been dancing with each other enough that even though they have not been dancing with each other for years, like most of the champions,
yeah.
because of their skill level, they know each other enough to start doing some more complex things with the connection.
Yeah. Yeah. And because they have really good technique, both of them individually, that allows them to really work off of each other and allows him to really lead her. So she's not questioning based on the fact that both of them have really solid technique that already puts her in a position to follow and not get ahead of the lead. And because they also now have some established chemistry and they have some established how they're working with the song.
Mm-hmm. And then this is another thing that I just want to emphasize. So yes, Roro is lowering the hand right here, but it's not much. I see so many leaders go to do this kind of stopping post where their arms are ramrod straight and this distance is really short. And all that does is forcing a follow to stay way too close to you and break their frame or bend over. It's kind of like the 2 options that a follow has for following that. So the thing that's leading the stop is the change in height. It doesn't have to be a huge change in height. It's a form of communication, not actual manipulation of the follow's body, which I think most leaders, I don't think you're doing this on purpose. I think this is just like, you don't have the information you need. So I'm giving you the information you need. It's the change in height that communicates. You don't actually have to like apply physical breaks to your follows frame to communicate that. All right. So the lyric for this one is round and round we go. And Roro is a pun master after my own heart. So I will accept it. And these are, while we did have continuous turns earlier, they traveled and it was alternating. So every second or third of Tren's turns, Roro turned. This is a broken wrist turn, which is much more difficult to do for both partners. And the fact that they've never danced together and seamlessly do broken wrist turns is tantamount to how skilled they both are. All right, so one of the reasons I've been like, don't yank the follow's hand down low is because he actually does that to her right here at the end.
Yeah.
And I would say this is the only place in the dance where some miscommunication shenanigans happened. And it starts because of how strongly he pulls the hand down. And so you can see how she has to kind of like stunt her movement and bend over a little bit to stay connected. It's just in general, as a leader, a very dangerous thing to try to connect with a follow with your hand, with your arm completely straight down at your side. Yeah. Even if Kyle did that to Sarah, I don't think it would work very well. Because in order to get there, the energy goes down into the floor. And the way that tethers the human body, it's unless you know it's coming, you can't really prepare for it because that'll just tip a body over. That's how the physics do.
And I want to add, so the reason that this doesn't end up poorly is there's a couple reasons. So one is because when he brings her arms down, he is really close to her. So it's not like he's yanking down when there's already some distance between them. That makes a difference.
That would make it much worse, yes.
Yeah. And what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, yeah, because they're similar in height, right? So if this was if they had a really big height difference, that would be something else that would really probably make this not go as smoothly. So it's kind of twofold. Like there's a couple reasons that it goes over okay overall. But you know, it's not the best moment.
Yeah. The thing that makes it complicated, because you can see like this arm has plenty of room because it's right to right. She has less rope to work with to reach this handhold. And you can see because of that, the connection just simply isn't as strong because she's had to adjust to accommodate that handhold. And I would say that is in part why she ends up walking forward here when it seems like his intention is for her to not move at all and him to walk around her. Is that how you read it too?
It's hard to say. I think his intention was to move around her.
Yeah.
Which would mean that she would need to stay relatively in place. So.
I lost track of where we were. There we are. Yeah, so this is the only moment I would say that there's like a kerfuffle in this dance. And they both recover really well. And I also like how he immediately because they got really close to the audience and the judges and the camera, and he immediately starts course correcting them back to a different distance. So using the floor, but also getting to a more easily viewed spot on the floor.
And I also want to add that considering this is a true Jack and Jill, it's really impressive that this is really the only moment where there's kind of like a and they both handle it really well. Like he continues with what he's doing. What's going to make it more confusing is if he commits and then decides to change what he's doing, right?
Yeah, to commit and then abort is so confusing.
Yeah,
to your partner. Yeah.
And because he's in front of her, right? So she can see where he's going and she can decide, okay, so I'm going to come back around you this way. But if he were to suddenly decide, oh, oops, like you didn't quite know what I was going to do, so let me change what I'm going to do, then she wouldn't be able to smoothly move around him.
Right.
And, move on.
Yeah. Yeah, giving your partner time to catch on, regardless of what role you are in, is so important. All righty, we are coming up on the end. All right, my note says Roro uses an extended slingshot to lead another breakaway, trusting that the pattern they've established is accenting the music, or that the pattern they've established together in accenting the music will continue. And then this is another callback to the very beginning of the dance. It started with a breakaway. And also, just as a follow who gets tired quickly because of heart palpitations, I appreciate breakaways because then she has full autonomy over how far or how quickly she's moving here.
Yeah. But you need to make sure that before you do a breakaway, make sure that your follow has enough of their own weight and is stable enough.
Yes. Yeah, so you can see, if we watch the handhold, what happens at the very end, if I saw it correctly, is Roro is pre-leading by getting a lot closer and building up a lot more compression in the system. And then he drops the handhold and then releases the compression out from there. And what that does is it helps send that intense energy directly into her hips. Yeah. Whereas if it were closer to her shoulder line, it might have the potential to like just tip her over. It's kind of like when you want to slide a full glass across a bar top, you push it from below its center. You don't push it at the top.
Yes.
Same concept applies to people. Who'd thunk?
Yeah.
And at speed, that's something that you wouldn't necessarily see because this is all happening so quickly. But that pre-lead and then the release at her hip line is so key to helping her feel stable and is one of the reasons why she can release her back foot and extend it so far out ahead of her. Yeah. And essentially slide into it.
I like that they keep it pretty simple immediately after they have that big breakaway moment.
Yeah, I agree. And Roro ends up, instead of leading a normal one, he just simply lifts the handhold and starts doing his own footwork. So he's releasing the tension of the anchor upwards. So that way she gets a clear signal that she doesn't have to travel if she doesn't want to, which gives her more time to see what he's doing and more time to decide what she wants to do. And then we get this great footwork sequence.
Yeah.
All right. Last note. So again, the importance of pre-leading. Roro uses his free arm ahead of time to indicate a forward and back check movement and uses a big hop again while he's in the air so that Tren can catch it and land with him. So here's the sequence that we're talking about, which is basically the end of the song. You see Deborah launch into orbit in the background. So Roro doesn't just lead with the connected hand, but he swings his free arm back too. So it's really clear that there's going to be an equal and opposite swing forward, which helps Tren check into the fact that it's going to be a forward and back motion. And then because they both know it's coming, and because Roro gets a lot of airtime, she's like, oh, I just need to emphasize the down. And they're in sync. So that's how that kind of stuff happens. They both know what was coming in the music, and he was in the air ahead of time. So she was like, oh, we're emphasizing this down. I got you.
Yep.
And we'll call that the touchdown dance.
I don't know why that's so funny. But like,
I'm here for it. So yeah, the anatomy of a true Jack and Jill is getting out of your head, doing what you can to help your partner also get out of their head, to be present with each other, pay attention to each other, and then essentially roadmap to not only discover what your partner's skills are, so you're starting at a simple enough baseline that you can learn what each other's skills are, and also learn how your partner hears the song you're dancing to. And once you have a basic framework of how your partner connects and how they hear the music, and you continue to be there and pay attention, you can make magic happen and make the audience think you're reading each other's minds.
Yep. Pretty much.
So thank you all so much for joining us. We will be back in 2 weeks. We'll see you then. Bye. I just love this. I think that's probably going to be the thumbnail. I don't know. We'll see if I have the guts to do that.